What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the name Hideo Kojima? That's right, the Metal Gear Solid franchise, of course. But back in the good old days when Konami wasn't just a glorified pachinko machine, another franchise was developed by everyone's favorite Kojima World Order, which unfortunately flew under the radar, despite its incredibly fast and anime-styled action. I'm talking about Zone of the Enders, of course, a third-person mecha combat game released for PlayStation 2 in 2001, a few months before the much-anticipated Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty. Even though it received critical praise, it sold poorly overall, ending up being bought mostly for its MGS2 demo. It was also nominated for the Most Disappointing Game award at GameSpot's Best and Worst of 2001 awards, which shouldn't surprise anyone. Gaming journalism was a meme even then. Thankfully, the poor audience reception didn't stop Konami from releasing a sequel and a GPA spin-off called The Fist of Mars, a perfect name for a video game series with big robots having even bigger, girthier, and juicier cockpits. Anyway, it's time to enter our stylish mech suit and start blasting, as we explore what made Zone of the Enders an interesting, although flawed, hidden gem. And if you enjoy this and like obscure old games, consider subscribing, joining the Discord, or supporting me on Patreon. Alright, let's get right to it. The year is 2172, and humanity has finally made the galaxy its bits, successfully colonizing Earth's, Mars's, and Jupiter's moons. The game takes place in Antilia, a Jupiter colony under attack by the terrifying military force known as Baram, which is after two advanced mechas, also known as orbital frames. Target Alpha is the frame called Anubis, while Target Bravo is Jehuti. A young boy named Leo Stenbach tries to flee from all the chaos and destruction, traumatized by the death of his friends. Hiding inside the hangar, he stumbles upon Jehuti, enters it, and it's time to finally kick some ass. A few tutorials and combat encounters later, we are ambushed by the game's main antagonist, Officer Viola, who pilots the orbital frame Nate. Oh yes, anime mommy, please dom me. Surprisingly, we win, and she flies off, swearing revenge. If I were in her position, I'd probably give up then and there, since I got absolutely blasted by a 13-year-old. But what do I know about anime villains? Anyway, we continue battling Baram's forces and protecting the colony, even though Jehuti's artificial intelligence, called Ada, constantly berates us and tells us it's a waste of time and energy. Since we are good guys that don't kill people, we ignore her, saving Sylvis Klein, a close friend of Leo's. Meanwhile, our altruistic acts attract the attention of the United Nations Space Force. We are contacted by Alina Weinberg, the commander of a civilian transport Atlantis, and ordered to deliver Jehudi back to them so they can take it to Mars. We continue our fight against Baram, defeating its commanders one by one, and eventually we meet up with Rock Thunderheart, Chad Thundercock's distant cousin, to deliver Jehudi, messing up Viola and her orbital frame once again, but refusing to kill her because we are a good guy. Our act of pure kindness and determination really resonates with her, leading her to abandon her old ways, joining the fight against Baram. Nah, I'm just kidding, she shoots Elvis in cold blood and runs off. Leo finally stops being a bitch and decides to end this once and for all. In the final mission, we disarm a bunch of bombs and defeat a crazed Viola one final time, blowing her ass into Jupiter's atmosphere. And Leo still wants to save her after all the shit she put him through. My guy, the orbital frame Musi isn't even worth it. Just save the world already. But then, out of nowhere, the evil mastermind behind everything appears, No Man, controlling Jehudi's superior twin-frame Anubis. Fuck yeah, they've been hyping this guy up the whole game. It's time for an awesome true final boss fight. Oh, you sweet summer child. Get ready for the most criminally underutilized bad guy ever. Anubis is way too strong for us, so all that happens is we exchange a few hits and then we escape, meeting up with the crew of Atlantis and Sylvis, who thankfully survived. It's somewhat of a bittersweet ending, I suppose. One last detail though. Jehudi's true mission is to go to the fortress Auman on Mars and destroy it by blowing itself up, which I guess is sad because that means Ada will die too, even though she's like Jehudi's ChatGPT, so I don't know why we care so much about her. And that's the main criticism against Leo's character. He's way too emotional and whiny, trying to shy away from his responsibilities and refusing to kill anyone, even if they're unstoppable psychopathic murderers. As a pseudo-intellectual video essay YouTuber, I think the correct phrase to use here is media literacy. Leo is just a kid who couldn't save his friends from being killed, thrust into saving the world against his will. Of course he's gonna complain, and of course he won't be willing to murder people like your average soldier. Matter of fact, I enjoyed the dynamic between the emotional Leo and the cold, calculated Ada, who puts the mission above everything else, including human lives.
The reason I stay here is because I'm needed. Sylvis and you are by my side, and there are even people to give me orders when I don't understand what's going on. There are people who need me finally, and for that, I'll devote my life to them.
Are you saying that you would sacrifice your life, your only life, for someone else?
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I feel that together we can do it.
Eventually, they both have some great character building moments together, with Leo understanding his responsibilities and becoming willing to sacrifice himself for the greater good, and Ada being more human-like and sympathetic towards Leo's cause. If you want an actual whiny dismissive douchebag, check out the sequel's protagonist. He is a bitch with a capital B. Other than that, the story is compelling with some touching moments and interesting themes about responsibility, war, and the cost of power. Sure, sometimes the dialogue is overly melodramatic and on the nose, while the character development isn't anything we haven't seen before, but still what is there is thoughtful and poignant, providing a sci-fi narrative that will keep you invested until the ending, that is, which will give you the biggest blue balls in video game history. Zone of the Enders really blew my mind with its presentation, both graphics and music-wise. Usually, games taking place in space are very minimal in their approach. It's space after all, just use a black background, a few dots and planets, and call it a day. But that's not the case here, because everything looks beautiful and refined. I guess the most logical thing would be to start with the mechas themselves, since they are the stars of the show. Designed by Yoji Shinkawa, they look elegant, mysterious and deadly. Their futuristic angular aesthetic, combined with their human-like form and Egyptian symbolism, is simply fucking sexy. And not the bad kind of sexy either that has you gooning over TikTok thirst traps. I'm talking the good, sophisticated, cultured kind. Then again, they do have giant pointed dicks as their cockpits, so maybe I'm just a giant hypocrite. No, but seriously, why are they there? That position offers no tactical advantage whatsoever. It actually makes your combat field of view much worse. The price of a good joke, I guess. Moving on to the rest of the experience, the environments impressed me with their detail and scale, but disappointed me with their lack of variety. Since the game takes place in a space colony, most of the levels are large residential areas or mountainous facilities. Compared to other games of the time, the textures may look a bit unpolished, but since most of the game takes place in the air, with the environments acting more as a background stage, it didn't ruin my immersion. Also, the presence of models and decorations, all of which are distractible, greatly enhanced the believability of its area. Fighting huge mechas with Jupiter on the background made everything grander and more imposing as well, making me feel like a small part of an all-out war. Unfortunately, like I said before, there is not enough level variety, as for the most part, all you'll be seeing is generic cityscapes and barren space stations. It's fine though, since the game's atmosphere is top-notch, enhanced by the spectacular soundtrack. Words can't describe it, it's pure auditory bliss. Composed by a variety of professionals, it features a mix of electronic beats, ambient sci-fi tunes, and intense battle music, perfectly complementing the high-speed, high-octane action. It's full of energy and atmosphere at the same time, making the fights that much more intense, while giving a mysterious vibe to the whole experience, making it the perfect sci-fi music. Now, the game's biggest point of contention is the voice acting. Pretty much everyone hates the English dub and the stiff voice direction. It's true, there is a lot of English here, although it never gets as bad as all your base are belong to us.
You're the runner of Bravo? That frame's not a kid's toy. Get out of there now.
I'm not a kid.
There's the proof that you still are a kid.
What?
I thought a woman would be plenty. Alright, I'm your target.
As for the voices themselves, I actually didn't mind them. Sometimes they went overboard with the cheesiness and the dramatic tension, sure, but it's nothing out of the ordinary if you're used to classic anime English dubs. It didn't ruin my experience with the game, and I feel like people exaggerate its awfulness, but maybe that's just me. In any case, Zone of the Enders is a phenomenal game. The art style is unique, the graphics are beautifully detailed, the animations are smooth like butter, and the soundtrack is a perfect blend of chanting and scenes. Sure, there's not enough variety, and the voices can be cringy, but in my opinion, they are small flaws when you consider how much of a remarkable adventure this is. It's truly something special. Zone of the Enders' gameplay is without a doubt its strongest point, remaining fresh and exciting even to this day. This is a third-person hack-and-slash action game, with some small elements of exploration and character development thrown in to add some variety to the experience. Jehuti can lock on and attack its enemies from long range with its energy rifle, while also being able to grab them and tear them apart in close range with its energy blade. When it comes to defense, we can block most enemy attacks and dash to avoid anything too powerful for our shield. Throughout the game, we also unlock a multitude of sub-weapons that have various defensive and offensive capabilities. Most of them are pretty useless to be honest, but some of them are so powerful that they can trivialize even the boss fights. Finally, Jehuti also has powerful special moves called burst attacks, which are activated by standing still and charging up, Dragon Ball style. I don't think I've ever used them, they were too slow for the game's frenetic pacing. Combat in general is an absolute delight, since we can move freely wherever we want, seamlessly chaining together aerial combos, evading attacks, and using everything in our arsenal to emerge victorious. If you're suffering from motion sickness, this game is probably not for you, because the action is more off the rails than a kid suffering from both ADHD and a sugar rush. You'll be flying all over the place, dashing in and out of combat, combining slashes with energy blasts, while the camera bounces up and down and left and right like a kid suffering from oh wait, I already used that one. Despite the game's frantic combat, I was never overwhelmed, because everything was simple and intuitive, with the camera always being able to follow my movements, unless I was in a small cramped area. These were the worst fighting scenarios, since the camera couldn't keep up with the action and I was unable to move freely to dodge any attacks. But overall, the combat system is exhilarating and rewarding. Unfortunately though, not everything is sunshine and rainbows. There are a few flaws here, with the biggest one being the way the game is structured. Instead of a linear level-by-level experience, we have an open-world, kinda Metroidvania-styled approach, which sounds interesting on paper, but ultimately it hurts the game more than it helps it. Instead of focusing on grand battles and exciting action, we have to spend most of our time going from place to place to find a random item or ability that we need to use on another place, so we can unlock some other random bullshit which we'll use on yet another place, and so on and so on. While we're in the middle of all this tedious exploring, the game throws in rescue missions, and we must complete them if we want a good rating at the end of the game. They are without a doubt the worst aspect of the experience. Every enemy is always super close to a building full of civilians, and as a result you have to lure them away in a very tedious fashion or be more careful than when you're using your mom's fine china, because apparently the buildings in the future are made out of paper and they instantly crumble into dust from a single puny energy shot. And guess what? Most of Jehudi's attacks are large AoE blasts. Not to mention that their rating is almost unfairly strict. Even if a single stupid civilian dies, your rating will instantly plummet to a C. Oh, by the way, did you know that if you fail every rescue mission, you'll get a bad ending? Yeah, Thunderheart will be killed from a random explosion out of nowhere, and Ada will say it's our fault, ending the game with the phrase, "Are you happy now?" Bitch, you'd berate me every time I try a rescue mission, telling me it's a waste of time, and now you're giving me guff about it? What an annoying, restrictive and punishing mechanic. I did not enjoy it one bit. And speaking of annoying, can I rant about Ada for a second here? Because my god, she never, ever shuts her damn mouth. Entering combat, escaping from a fight, reaching the level's boundaries, destroying a building, being surrounded by enemies, having low health, no matter what you do, she always has some stupid line that she repeats over and over ad nauseum.
We will hold battle position. Enemy backup force is approaching our location. Enemy backup forces are in battle position. Colony damage increasing due to battle. Enemy backup force is approaching our location.
I just can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man.
Absolutely infuriating. I'm honestly so happy they reduced her dialogue in the sequel. She was so annoying, I was about to make a bad millennial joke about women and their nagging. Other than all that, the game desperately tries to mix things up, with gimmicky missions where you control one of the bad guys, or have a single point of health and are unable to heal, until you find the vaccine to cure Ada's herpes or something, I don't know. A good effort to add some variety, I suppose, but it's not enough to distract us from the game's repetitive nature. Don't get me wrong, the combat is fun and addictive, but excluding the great boss fights, the game only has 3 enemy types. Yeah, I'm not kidding, only 3. And it's not like they get more moves as the game progresses, they just get faster and more aggressive. It's a shame and a blessing that the game lasts only for about 4 hours, because it runs out of steam incredibly quickly. At least you can unlock a versus mode where you control every frame in the game, so you can turn it into an awesome 3D fighter. Still, it's just another small distraction from the game's core issues. Some would say Zone of the Enders is more of a prototype for the sequel, and while I can totally see where they're coming from, I still believe that it's worth your time. The combat is revolutionary even to this day, and it's a lot of fun dashing around and blasting everyone to bits. If you can ignore Ada's yapping and the game's annoyances, the core gameplay will satisfy you and leave you wanting more. Thankfully there's a sequel, but it's a shame we never got a complete trilogy. Another tear lost in rain. Zone of the Enders is an unrefined masterpiece that doesn't get any love today. Many often dismiss it because of its repetitive nature and bad English voice dub, insisting that the sequel is the only one you need to play. And I think that's a really unfair thing to say, even though the second game is far superior indeed. The production quality and attention to detail are nothing short of impressive for an old PS2 game, even though the environmental variety is small. The soundtrack is beautiful, and honestly, I didn't even mind the voice acting or the out-of-place lines. I guess I've built up my tolerance from all the shitty dubs I used to watch. As for the gameplay, the combat is spectacular, stylish, and truly unique. I don't think there is a single game besides the sequel that manages to replicate its intuitive anime-styled fluidity. Are there only 3 enemy types though, with very little variation in between them? Absolutely. It's not perfect for sure, but the 4 hours I spent with Jehuti were a hell of a lot of fun. If you can stomach the weird voice acting and the game's imperfections, you too will have a great time, guaranteed. It's a shame there is no PC port or anything else besides the HD edition. Oh well, we can only look at the stars and dream of the possibilities. And that's all I had to say about Zone of the Enders. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did, comment your thoughts below, and subscribe for more stuff. You know how it goes. You can also support me on Patreon or become a channel member for early access to my videos and other perks. Have a great day, and until next time, take care and have fun.